And it took me a long time, and I threw myself into as much work as I could because I couldn't process this loss. And she's buried at Springvale Cemetery, which is beautiful. So we do go and visit her every year, or as often as we can. I mean, she's in our hearts. That's just her ashes. She's here. And I honour her every year. And she would be 20, what are we in, 2020? Oh my gosh. It should be 20 this year. So it's funny to think, but it's still painful, even 20 years on, and it's normal. That's normal. And to recognize it's when you don't feel, that's not normal, that's apathy. And apathy isn't healthy. So the fact that I was feeling was a healthy place for me to be, because I had been apathetic at one point. So in my life. So I then threw myself into working and went through a number of jobs. And then 2 years later, we had as I worked in various different areas. So I've worked for mining firms. I've worked for, I'm just trying to remember all the companies that I work for here. It's quite interesting, the companies that I work for. Not-for-profit company, which helped educate people coming into Australia, refugees and people like that, to learn English and giving them skills to be able to assimilate into our culture here. So I've worked in a number of different companies here, finance. So my background tends to go into I tend to end up veering towards finance because I understand that more. But I then ended up going and having my 2 children. I have now a 17-year-old son finishing VCE and a 12-year-old little girl.
I want to pause for 1 second. So, okay, because after losing a baby, it's how did you and your husband heal after that? So, and I'm imagining, because I can only imagine, incredibly painful. But and the reason I ask is also because
Sorry.
That's all right. The reason that I ask is also because I'm sure that there are a lot of people out there that after they've been through it, there's this very difficult decision where it's almost, or it seems like it anyway, where you either stay together, or when you see each other, that's what you see, and so you move away from each other. So,
a really good question. How did we heal? Nick took on most of the responsibility so I could grieve as much as I could. I think our healing took a little bit longer because we were receiving letters every year from the hospital. What's life like with a 1-year-old? What's life like with a 2-year-old? And Nick got the first 2, and then the next one I got, and I was pregnant at the time. So I remember ringing up my friend, and she called the hospital and absolutely blasted them because it was the continuation of our trauma in this death. What we did have, and this was what I would recommend for anybody, we actually ended up going and seeing SANS, which is like SIDS, so stillborn and neonatal death syndrome, which is very much the same as SIDS. And the woman who we'd started seeing her when we discovered that Olivia was sick. So we started seeing her before. And that was, I think, if you find out, obviously, if you're not in the position where we were told before that our baby was sick and had less than a 5% chance of survival, I still recommend to go and see SANS or SIDS. She was the first person to get I can't remember her name, I wish I could, she was an amazing woman, where before you'd have the baby, they'd just take the baby away. And she got that changed, where you could have the choice to hold your child. because she had lost her child and they'd taken the baby away. So that was an amazing thing. And she gave us strategies on how to cope. And Nick didn't, I don't think, did his grieving for a good, we were still living in Armadale, I think a good 2 years later, because he was making sure, because he knows my history, my past, and he knows that it triggered again post-traumatic stress. I'm not good enough. I couldn't protect my baby. I was clearly such a bad child. I'm a monster. Because I couldn't keep my child alive. It was always very unhealthy. So he was keeping me healthy so I didn't spiral, because that was the only time I ever thought the world doesn't need me. I'm useless and I'm a useless piece of whatever. They'd be better off without me. When you lose your child, you go, and then you think you're a murderer, even though you haven't done anything. You've given birth and the baby's stillborn, and it's really conflicting. So getting the right help is so important. Nick then grieved, and it was the first time I really saw him cry a couple of years later. And from there, because he supported me and then I supported him. And it was actually a real, that's when we realized our marriage was really strong. All marriages have ups and downs, but we do make each other laugh. And when the chips are down, we are there to support each other. And losing a child, bearing a child, being at the service, and you know you can never hold them again. You have to go and get help. You won't get through it, because what will happen is the guilt will eat you up. And you can't, guilt is an emotion that lasts a lifetime. You have to keep living. I couldn't have had my children, my other children, had I not gone and had help. And that was with a specialist counsellor in grief, who she herself had gone through the process. So she was able to understand my anger at the person who'd made my baby sick. I have no idea who it was. I'm pretty sure of the 4 things, which is, and I can't remember one of them, viral, structural, chromosomal, and one other thing. They ruled out everything apart. Let's say there's 200 viruses that can cause fetal hydrops, for example. All of those were tested. None of them came up. There'll be 3,000 that haven't been discovered yet, because these things aren't funded properly or haven't got enough money in them. So whoever coughed on me or whoever breathed near me, I was angry with them as well. So you have to be able to express all those emotions. To then have a fulfilling relationship with your partner, because then you're right. Do you only see loss when you look at your partner? Or do you see yourself as actually 2 people that made a beautiful child who unfortunately didn't survive? Yeah, you can't. I would be sad to see relationships die because of that, seeing that when you have a stillborn or something, or a baby that doesn't survive in that way. I think there's a lot more. If you put in the work, you can make it work.
Thank you for opening up as well. Yeah, and for detailing that. Yeah, because yes. Thank you. Okay.
And they're easy to find, and you can always, the minute anything like that happens, it's so easy to find someone. They'll help you immediately. They'll give you all the tools that you need. You can't control whether the hospital gets it wrong after that, but they will give you the tools and actually take away that guilt. I stopped thinking I was a murderer. I stopped thinking that I was a bad person. All of those childhood things had happened to me because I was a bad person, because I must have turned my mother into something, or I'd upset someone else. You know, it's I upset that teacher enough to tell me I was stupid. It wasn't my fault. So
Yeah, no, yeah, it's just the other side of the coin. Like which way do you want to look at it, and hopefully you can ride the edge, so you can see both sides.
absolutely.
So okay, so now we're at the stage where yes, you have two beautiful babies.
I
They're all grown
do.
up.
They're all grown up, and they are. I'm looking forward to seeing what Josh does with his future. He was on The Voice a couple of years ago, and beautiful singing voice, very soprano. Now his voice is broken, and because he was 15 and he looked 12, and he's now training. He wants to become a lawyer, so he's studying VCE. Got accepted into Deakin University's accelerated, I think it's called an accelerated program to study legal studies as part of his VCE. And my daughter Emily, my little school captain, she's just. I'm really blessed. I see all of the hardships that I did go through. Don't get me wrong. I've had my moments with them. I think all parents do, but in the big scheme of things, I'm pretty lucky. I've got two well-grounded, and in fact, Josh was interviewed recently. So his interviews on my page and all of that about his experience on The Voice and what he went through. He's articulate. He's thoughtful, and Emily is, again, school captain. She's articulate, she's thoughtful, she's actually a smart kid. I coach her as well, obviously. Poor kid's not going to get out of not having mum coach her. So I've been very lucky with my two children. But what is interesting is prior to when I turned 40 and I had my kids, so I had Emily when I was 40, or 39 and a half, but let's round it up to 40 for sake of argument. I went back into the workforce. So it was about 2012, I got a job, didn't work out, ended up, and I was an unofficial company secretary for that job. So given these paid a secretary's role, but given these extra roles, anyway. But I think that's just the nature of the beast. If they can see what you can do, then people will ask you to do more. And it's up to you. But then you have to work out whether you're prepared to lose your job as well. Sometimes that can happen where you're made to feel that you should be grateful to have a job. And this is the one thing which I have said to people in my coaching. If you're ever made to feel grateful for having a job, just remember they're not paying you to sit there and do nothing. They are paying you for a skill. It's a swap of services, a swap of money for your service. Just like someone's buying moisturizer, they're paying money for the moisturizer, they are using the moisturizer. They are using your service. So always value yourself on that. And that was a hard lesson I had to learn to do that. So I actually ended up at one point not being able to get a job. I applied for 65 jobs here in Australia, and I'd get to the second round on a lot of them. Being over 40, it can sometimes play against you in bias. I was actually being rejected mostly for being overskilled. Go figure. Okay. Too much skill. You'll get bored. You'll leave us. You'll want to do something new. You'll want to move up in, hang on a second, I just want a job. I want to raise my children, and I want to be a mum that's present. I'm not looking to become operations manager. I'm looking to be a good mum and do my job. Now I was being rejected for being overskilled because I'd asked them, they'd love me in the interview, they'd love me. And then they would pick someone sometimes younger. No, you're not allowed to be discriminatory against someone's age. but it's human nature. Okay. So I ended up, after 65 rejections, I think everything in my life, with the death of my daughter, the gun attack, the not being able to save that little girl's life, the move from Iran to back to England, a country I really didn't know, because when you leave at 5, you come back at 10, to the bullying at school, everything hit me like a sledgehammer. And I do believe that I already had depression to a degree, but the depression got really bad. I couldn't get out of bed. I was really in myself. And then that with post-traumatic stress disorder on top, and I wasn't coping. I was not coping, and I was in a really, really bad place. And I thought, what am I going to do? I need to work. I wanted to work, but no one wants me because I'm too skilled. How does that work out? So I ended up investigating what I was good at, and it took a lot of, I got help first. That was the first thing I did. I actually reached out and accepted help, and I saw a psychoanalyst. So I got deep and dirty in the fetal position, which is what I needed, because we bandy words around, and this is what I found: abuse. We bandy words about child abuse, child brutalization. Change it for what it is. Not abuse, brutalization. It actually changes the feeling of something. From being numb to it, changes the feeling. And some of the words that my therapist used allowed me to have that emotional connection to what really happened to me, and deal with it, and cry, and actually go, why? It wasn't my fault, and learn it wasn't my fault. It's not my, even like letting up. It was a cry for help. It was a scream for help, and a scream that no one could see, because all they saw was a difficult child. And I have street intelligence, but I actually am intelligent as well, academically. I just didn't know it. So I got the help that I needed, and that was the best thing. It takes a lot of courage to get help. Ask for help. Does not mean you're weak. What it does mean is open yourself up and be the vulnerable self that needs the help. That person is there, they're on your side, they will give you the tools, they will help you understand where this emotion is coming from. They'll teach you to sit in the emotion and not react it. How many times have we thought, oh, I'm going to kill him? There's a difference between going, oh, I'm going to kill him, to actually following it through. Okay? So it's learning for that. There are times when you're so enraged, you're just homicidal. There's a difference between, you can feel that. You can feel that. It's when you carry it through, there's a problem. So it's learning how to sit with that rage, that sadness, that grief, or whatever else that you're sitting with, and know that most of it's normal. And as a parent, I do good enough parenting. I don't need to be Superwoman. I don't need to compete with the Joneses. I need to be just a good enough parent to know that my children are happy and balanced. And I think when we put pressure on ourselves, and that was one of the other things that I was doing, looking for a job, trying to put my pressure on myself to be a super parent and everything else like that. And I made myself sick. So I got the help that I needed, and then I started discovering. Now, there's a little technique which maybe your listeners would, if they're, because of COVID, that some people will have been laid off from their jobs, and some people will have been laid off perhaps and not really enjoyed their jobs anyway. So it's possibly an opportunity to start looking at a new direction. And one of the techniques that I did was on an A4 sheet of paper, cut it into 4, draw a line down, and on the top left-hand side, write love. On the top right-hand side, write like. Underneath the word like, on the bottom right-hand side, type write tolerate, and beside that, underneath the word love, write the word hate. Under each category, write everything you love. It could be as simple as going for a walk or looking at trees. Everything, it could be, I love chocolate. It could be, I love people. In my case, it was, I love helping other people. I love animals. I love human rights. I'm all about human rights. I'm all about let's keep it. I hate bullying. And I like, I like climbing trees. Not my favorite thing to do now. Maybe when I was little. I used to love the concept as a child of getting into a rocket ship and going into space. What's that about? It's all about bringing back information for mankind to grow, understand from a scientific perspective. So it's all, and what I worked out, and then under tolerate, and this is where most people sit. A lot of people I've worked out sit in not everybody, so I want to clarify that. A lot of people sit in the tolerate and hate element of what they do. So they might be a forklift driver, but they tolerate their boss yelling at them, okay? And what they actually love being is truck. They love driving, okay? So look for that, but they actually love animals. So you might want to then go, if you put it under love and all of these, they like driving, they love it, or whatever. Look for the correlations of the things that you like and love. And from when I did that, I hated being bossed around, and I hated it when I had I worked for lazy people that couldn't even be bothered to plug in their own mobile phone, which is right by their desk, but they'd have me do it. Or a husband whose wife is at home, but they have me go collect their dry cleaning. I really struggled with that. I've got a whole heap of things to do. Why isn't your wife collecting your dry cleaning? Because I knew what their itineraries of what the wife was doing. So I wasn't very good at that type of thing. So by understanding, and I'd tolerate them telling me to do it, but I really didn't like it. So I hated bossiness, I hated bullying, and often people in positions of power, look at the teacher that I've had, and in some of the companies, they could sometimes be a bit narcissistic or a bit bullyish and make demands. And there would be times I would say to my boss, you really can't be speaking to the staff like that. You have to be whiter than white, squeaky clean. You cannot have anything tarring you. And so it was interesting. So what I then discovered is everything for me moved from this liking, not liking, tolerating, hating, into children, teaching, human rights, having a voice, speaking. Guess what? I like to speak, and really coaching. But I'm not good with sticking in curriculum because you're an individual, and what might work in a curriculum doesn't always work in what I do for a living. I have to adjust my coaching style for every single child that I coach. Okay, and we have them all in the same room. So I got the help. I then started competing. I went and joined Toastmasters, having realized that I like speaking and wanted to learn how to do more public speaking and be more confident in the way that I delivered presentations, ability to think on my feet and just allow it to flow. And I competed, and I told a story of a time when I was living in Africa of an incredible woman. And actually, no, that first one was about my brother saving children's lives in Darfur as a logistics specialist for Médecins Sans Frontières, MSF, and where he saved 4 of the 7 children survived because of his decision. And guns with bullets. And I actually won, and I got to the highest. My first time competing, and I was like, oh my God, I'm actually good at something. I've discovered my niche. And I started winning. And I was like, oh my God, I'm winning. Are you kidding me? People are telling me I'm good. I've never had that. I've had it for sports, but I've never had it for anything else. You're good. And I went, and I'm winning. And that year, it was the first time I competed. I got to the highest level you can in Australia. I got to district. So you have to, I got knocked out at district, but that's okay. It was my first time. And parents at my daughter's school heard, because obviously I do a post, oh my God, can you believe this? Me? Oh,
yes.
I'm actually good at something. And parents at my daughter's school started approaching me and saying, hey, we've heard you're an award winner. My kid is really scared of public speaking or of presentations at school. And they'll talk about having a tummy ache, and they won't, sometimes they'll even make excuses not to go to school. Have you got any tips that I can do to help them? And I was like, are you kidding me? Children? No.
That's
No.
about your best Australian accent that there's been so far.
Yeah. It was absolutely hilarious. Anyway, I had more and more people coming up and asking me. And I thought, there's something in this. I'm actually getting, it's a demand for something that people are seeing as a real need in the curriculum, and not just the listening and speaking aspect of the curriculum. Okay. So I said, look, okay, hang on a second. I will go away and I will come up with something. So it is the stuff that I learned through Toastmasters on body language and things like that. The first course, and I only hit grade 5s and 6s. Then I had grade 2 parents saying, hey, can you help my child? Can they join the program? I went, it's a bit too advanced. They'll be scared. Let me go away and think about it. So I went off before all of that. So I thought about that and I created this. And then I called my business another name and someone trademarked me. So I ended up, my business is called Building Voices Public Speaking. It will change again when I do my next upskilling thing, because I'm so excited about this. But Building Voices Public Speaking, I then took it into my daughter's school, and it's been enormously successful. The children, I talk about posture, how you posture. People will decide who you are before you even open your mouth, by the way you stand, by the way you walk, by the way you get up to present. So I get the kids to do what I call the speaker stance. But first I take a photo before, and then the speaker stance is where they would have their hands behind their back and their feet shoulder width apart, pulling the shoulders back so they hold their wrists quite lightly with their dominant hand, the dominant hand on the non-dominant. So I get them to do that, take a photo before and a photo after, and they can actually physically see the difference in their confidence. And only very rarely do I ever have a kid that doesn't need it. Most of us, and I do it with the adults I coach, by the way, because we carry that same posture into our adulthood if it's not been adjusted in childhood. And then I taught them how to walk again. It's hilarious. So I got them to do the speaker stance and walk, and then just walk normally, do it again, arms behind, and then keep your shoulders straight, and then just drop your arms. So that rather than being like shoulders rounded, straight up, it makes you more impactful. It gives charisma. It gives power, the power pose, the way you stand. And I taught them to what I call squish the ant. It's another movement, how to squish the ant and use the floor space, because moving around on a stage, when presenting, if you are going to present, if you have to, it needs to be a bit like dancing. It needs to be glide. You need to glide. It needs to be elegant, rather than this whole foot stomp, which I see people do a lot, and men love to shove their hands in pockets. And then what happens is you get embarrassing fiddling because they're playing with keys or something like that, but it looks wrong. And so it was fascinating. And then I taught them to organize their thoughts, how to answer a question. So we'd do something as simple as, tell me why you like the color purple. And they go, I like the color purple because it's really bright. And I go, expand. Cadbury's has the color purple in their branding. Purple might remind you of chocolate. So I'd give them the techniques to expand on what they're talking about. Purple is also a royal color. It's the color of royalty in the olden days. So think about why you like it. So eventually the kids were able to then come up with extraordinary answers and expand on them, to the point where I teach them how to do the 4 styles of speaking: inspirational, persuasive, informative, and entertaining. They do one of each, and then they learn the purpose of each to then mix and match. And it's extraordinary. I have children as young as grade 2 debating with grade 5s and smashing them. So we give these children the opportunity to do that. So I did that, and now I was supposed to be starting at Furbank Grammar in term 3. I don't think that's going to be happening now. So that Furbank Grammar would be my 4th school. So I'm at Tucker Road, Bentley Primary School. I'm at St Finbarr's Primary School, Catholic Primary School, and I'm at Melbourne Grammar, Grimwade House as well. So I'm really pleased. From nothing, it came by a need of people approaching me. So I don't even know if I would have ever gone into doing what I'm doing if parents hadn't approached me. I would have gone into communications of one form or another, because I think that knowing that I like to talk and the way that I communicate and how I come across, but I didn't think that I would ever step into that. And then the kids loved me. And I was able to, because I have had such a life, I can connect with these children. So if I have a child that has a bit of anger management issues, I can connect because I have them too. And I'm able to give them, so I give them deep breathing exercises to focus and ground them, to make sure that they're calm before they present. I teach them all these techniques. And what's in this 2020, and obviously the end of this year is going to be very different, but at the end of last year at Tucker Road, they have, and this is a very proud moment for me and what I have achieved, okay? Tucker Road have lots of leaders, but the main leaders are 8 house captains and 4 school captains. 3 of the 4 school captains are my students, and I teach them how to interview, how to write a speech, how to pitch, and then how to paraphrase back to give themselves time, even reflect on, they evaluate each other so that they get resilient, learn how to give constructive and receive constructive feedback.
Put the ego aside. Yes, and take
Yes,
the hits. Yes,
exactly.
massive. Yes.
It's huge. And it then builds them up at home. There's so many benefits to teaching children how to give and receive constructive criticism. And so they say, okay, your speech, yes, I think you could have done this, and this better. And then they're loving it. They're actually really interactive in that way, and they enjoy that. And then I give them mentoring. But out of those, 3 of the school captains, out of the 4 school captains, are my students. And is it 12? My maths is not my strong suit. 9 out of the, sorry.
Hang on a second. There were only
No,
8.
12. 12, 11, 10. Oh, hang on, there's 12, 11, 10, 9. So hang on, 8. So oh my God, my math is
Double.
terrible.
That's okay. So you mentioned that of the school
8.
captains, I believe there's 3 of the 4 from your school, and then there were 8 house captains. Is that
Yes, and yes. So basically, out of the 12 main school leaders, let me make it easier this way. I'm complicating it.
Good idea.
Out of the 12 main school leaders, 9 either are being coached by me or have been coached by me. And that's 75%. So I was absolutely stoked. I think next year will be very different, unfortunately, because of COVID. And COVID impacted my business really, really negatively because I am a very hands-on coach. So I will demonstrate to a child when we're talking about, have you ever thrown a temper tantrum? Tell me about a time that you've thrown a temper tantrum to your parents and their reaction. So it's also about self-evaluation, becoming self-aware. And they'll talk about it and I'll say, okay, so is this what you look like? And I'll lie on the floor and throw a temper tantrum and really throw, and then they'll burst out laughing and they go, oh, is that what I look like? And it gets them to see. So I'm very, very interactive. I will lie on the floor and I will throw a temper tantrum, pretend temper tantrum. Or they'll have me, they'll go, can you do a Visco girl? And I'll go, save the dolphins, or whatever it is. And so I'm really interactive with them because I believe that it's trust. For me, trust is really important. And for children to want to do well, they have to like you and they have to trust you and they have to know you have their best interest at heart. So I'm their mentor. And all the kids I coach, I absolutely adore because they all have their little nuances, their little personalities. Some are show ponies, some are very insular. But I've managed to get the show ponies to calm it down but still not lose who they are. They just have another level of confidence in a really great way. And those who are a little bit more introverted or sit within themselves suddenly discover they have incredible skills and they come out of themselves a little bit more. So the unfortunate thing for me was when COVID hit and we had to close the school down at the end of term 1, I had 24 hours to get up online. A parent had suggested it. I hadn't even considered it. She had suggested it a week beforehand, but I was still coaching through the week and it was finding the time to be able to do something. So I put a call out on Facebook, different pages that I'm a member of, saying, anybody know what I should use? And I was getting all these suggestions. So people are wonderfully helpful. And then a girlfriend of mine called Stephanie Gadden, she's an amazing IT guru. She does all the research you need. And she went off and we ended up using Zoom. After an initial debacle, because I need to be able to see the screens of all the kids. I can't remember what the first one was, but I could only see 6 screens. Now I have 16 kids in a class sometimes.
Yeah, so awkward.
Not going to help. And got me up using Zoom. It's taken me a term to learn how to use Zoom properly. And I have had dropouts because unfortunately with the online learning that the kids have had to do, by the time they come to extracurricular, whether it's public speaking, guitar, piano, drums, I don't know, any of dancing, they're not enjoying it as much. A lot of these businesses that have had to shift online that are very physically in front of have suffered. I know a lot of businesses have, but I'm talking about what I do. And I went from having 60 students in total when I'm in the physical class to now I have 21 in 2 separate classes. That's a huge hit. Whereas originally COVID impacted me 75% overnight. Melbourne Grammar shut down for the whole of term 2. I charge the school charges the parents. So it's not even as if I can then contact the parents. and still work with the kids because it goes through the school. I don't even know who most of the parents are. And some Finbars I've been able to do it, but some kids just didn't want to do online, so wasn't getting re-enrolled. And there were kids that were doing online at Tucker Road who just didn't enjoy online. And in all honesty, I get it. I totally get it. With public speaking, you have to sit there and you have to listen to each other. Kids have ants in their pants. Asking a child to sit still for an hour is really tough. So I did have quite a few dropouts who are on the waiting list for my physical classes. So they're still loyal. You know, it's not that I haven't lost them. I've just lost them until we go back. And I don't know when that will be. So I've adapted my online classes now. I've learned how to use the breakout rooms. The kids will go into the breakout rooms. They're going to do debating, conflict resolution in teams. We'll have a mediator flicking between the different rooms. And I'll work with the other students on body language. So I'm also doing a bit of role play. So it's quite good fun in this way. So imagine we're kids. I might be talking about my cat, and then you'll be given just through the chat, you have to look distracted. And then the class has to actually, I have to try and work out what your body language is telling me. And yeah, it's brilliant. And then if I can't work it out, it's opened up to the class. So there's lots and lots and lots of fabulous things that you can do with it. So I think this term will be a lot better. It's just much smaller classes. So what I have been doing is I put a call out when we went back down into the second batch of lockdown. I went, I don't know if my business can survive this. Because I was hoping we would go back in term 3, even if it's 2 or 3 weeks in, and those kids on the waiting list would come back in, and therefore I'm earning an income, okay, as well. And I miss them. I actually miss these kids, but from a financial perspective, I'm earning an income. And that really hit. So what I'm looking at doing is finding an interactive way to be able to get kids to be able to do some of my program without having to join an online class, and they can do it in their own time. So I'll be doing that hopefully with my daughter soon, and I'll be really excited to be releasing them, but I'm going to just trial one first and see, because then it's also parents interacting with the kids. Parents can do it with the kids. So I think it'll be really good, and the parents can learn things too. So I'm looking for the positive in what was a very horrible negative situation. And the other real positive that's come out of this is I ended up giving up my office space. And a girlfriend of mine said, because I'm doing one-on-one public speaking coaching with a young boy, and a friend of mine said, oh, do you know what I think you should do? Why don't you do a certificate in counselling? Because you do some of that anyway. Instinctively, when someone's having a nervous breakdown, you take them aside and say, okay, what's going on? Chat to me, and let's sort of, and then I'll get them into the right mood. And I went, because my biggest fear, Matt, has been my self-belief and my academic intelligence. And it's been a massive obstacle for me to overcome. So I'm now going to do a diploma of counselling. I've started it, and the money that I put aside a little bit of money that I put aside for my rent of my office space, I'm going to use that to upskill. I can't get vet support, the government subsidy, because I'm a permanent resident, not a citizen. I really do need to sort that one out. And I think you can get it if you are a permanent resident refugee, but I can't get it, which I think is a bit silly, really, considering I pay taxes and I'm putting back into society and whatever else it is. But anyway, I have to pay for it. So instead of whinging about it, I've worked out a payment plan, and I'm going to get my diploma. I'm going to get my first qualification. And I'm excited. And then maybe I might do something else too after that. But
maybe something like the flip side of that as well is think about the people that have studied. So sorry, I'm moving my
No, don't worry.
with the people that have studied for 5, 6, 7 years, right? And then they don't even get a job in the area that they've got all those courses in,
Yeah.
or like it's a really ironic thing because so when it comes to the tertiary qualification, I remember when I didn't have my degree, and I finished my degree, it's in exercise science, so it's still like one of those like semi arts degrees just in the fitness world,
Yeah.
but the reality was, like, I remember I finished my uni degree, and just to reassure you and remind you of like kind of the flip side of this. I was working in the industry by the time. Anyway, I was working in the industry, and the only reason I got a job in the industry was because I went out and did a 24-hour bike ride, and because I was very lean and very skinny, and so I was like, why would anyone kind of train with you, sort of thing? Because you're obviously not bulky enough. You mustn't be fit. So I did that, and anyway, I started working, and I finished my degree, and I remember I remember being like, okay, cool. So like, can I get a pay rise or like something like that? And I remember, my boss at the time was like, oh, well, if you come back full time again, you can earn an extra 5K a year. And I was like, and obviously that's taxed as well. And I was like, hang on a second, I just spent like $20,000 or $30,000 to do this degree, and now it equates to maybe $2,000 or $3,000 extra. That was when they're like the slap in the face. It's like, reality check. The degree doesn't matter. It's literally, well, in some things it does. Obviously, if you're becoming a doctor, or there's a few things where if you're looking for government funding, then it makes sense. But in the grand scheme of things, whenever I've looked at the greatest success stories throughout history, and even the people that have set up universities like Oxford, like Harvard, they were set up by entrepreneurs that didn't finish school. So and
it's true.
So when you're running through and you're telling me about your colorful history, all I'm picking up is your phenomenal awareness of human nature, that other people that have gone through the typical societal norm of progress through their courses are completely blind to. And so it's really ironic because on one side of the coin, you're highly educated, but you're like, why don't I understand how the world works? Or maybe there's an gnawing feeling in the back of your mind that there's a mismatch. And then on your side, you're like, oh my God, I really wish I could just have that damn piece of paper.
It is, and it is literally that. But the interesting thing is, what I'm planning on doing once I get the diploma of counselling, is I'm planning on. It'd be great to be accredited because then I can actually help people with other issues as well. But I want to go more into the communication. I want to work with families to change the dynamic in families based on them understanding at a deeper level the way that they're communicating and why they're communicating. So remember when actually there was a time when I faced a bit of racism when living in the UK. Okay. And I was in a shop, and I had a chap say to me, oi, Packy, filthy, dirty dago, get back to your own country. And he was really well spoken. And I said, excuse me? Filthy dago, get back to your own country. And I said, do you go on holiday? And he said, yeah. Well, at first he went, what? And then I repeated, I said, look, sorry, just going to ask you a question. Do you go on holiday? And he said, yes. I said, and you don't get a tan. You stay the color you are, so you don't tan. He said, no, I get a tan. I said, like me. You go on holiday to go my color. And I saw a visible, because rather than attacking him and having a go and being aggressive about it, I turned the actual thing around and asked him questions and then pointed out the folly of what he was saying. Because if you think about it nowadays, you can have people that are being racist based on colour. You know how we're called wogs here in Australia. And I'm putting that very clearly, that here in Australia we call that, because the Greeks and Italians have taken that word, which was a negative thing, and made it into their word. In England, it's a really insulting word. So I've taught my children not to use it, because I get a good half English Australian blood. They want to travel, turn up to England and use that word and get their head kicked in.
Yeah.
So it's about being very, very careful. So changing the way that we're responding and changing the way that we're talking to each other can therefore prevent a fight. Sometimes we can't walk away because we might be a slightly more fiery personality. So how are you going to have that discussion is uncomfortable or is perhaps confrontational if you can't walk away? And another thing that I found is that with girls, someone goes, "What you looking at?" Now, I found another way that I was really admiring your shoes. Where are they from? It's a very quick and easy way to diffuse something. And I've had the girl buy me a drink because I've been friendly about it. They've got the aggro, not me, just simply because I looked at them. But changing that, you can actually diffuse. So I want to be able to work with families to change a child's way of communicating with a parent, because children, what I actually teach the kids, children, actually I teach the parents this, we as adults, we as parents are trained by our children to respond in a particular way. If they nag and we're fed up of the nagging, we say, "No, go away. Not now, go away." But if we teach the child to, "Excuse me, may I ask a question?" Or, "Can I ask a question?" Grammar is semantics at this point. "Can I ask a question?" Get mum to acknowledge them. Kid feels validated. Start negotiating. Healthy negotiating. It builds, and it's worked in some of the families that I've worked with when I've actually brought it into the program, because I don't do it every term. And it's something that I'd like to do as a specific thing. So I think it'd be really good to start working with families as a counsellor, but as a communications counsellor. That's my expertise, is my ability to get the best out of people in the way they communicate. So that's my direction on this, of where I want to go with this. And what I'm actually thinking of is, there was something here which you, where would it, to achieve, wow, I am so unbelievably proud of what I've achieved. COVID has affected everybody. Just the simple fact of being in lockdown. And it's affected some people very, very negatively, and some people, I only know of a couple of people who have actually enjoyed being stuck at home. Okay. Try and look for a way of where you can shift, if that's what you want to do. If you're struggling, do the 4 things: love, like, tolerate, hate. Get to know yourself. Make these correlations. Understand more of who you are. Maybe you'll then do a career change. I did a complete career change into something I have no idea of. Really good EA, no idea on this. And then taught myself, and actually I'm very, very good at it. And I get results. And the results are in the children and the emails I get and the testimonials I get from families and even the kids. I didn't want to do it. The word public speaking is like a swear word. But you get these results, and that you never know. So do the exercise. I started writing a book. It's been on the back burner, a fiction. I thought, I want to do this. I'm going to give it a go. So I started writing it. Maybe one day they'll pick it up and make it a movie. You never know. So
you have to have the dream first, and
but
then
have the
obviously follow
dream.
through. Yes.
That's right. But think about what it is you would like to change in your life. Some things are even when you're depressed, getting out of bed, do one day at a time. Because when you're depressed, getting out of bed for me was a huge feat. It was a major achievement. Do one step at a time. We are stuck at home, and because we are stuck at home, use the time. Use the time to proactively look at what you'd like to change in your life. And I can promise you, when I started doing this and I found the direction that I wanted to go in, like by accident, I didn't miss the opportunity because previously had blinkers on. I only saw what I wanted to see. But because I'd taken those blinkers off and I got the help I needed, and I spent a long time getting that help. Completely healthy now. And she said, I've never seen anyone get healthy so quickly. Doesn't mean I don't get sad about things, but I've learned how to handle those emotions. And I do think that if we can, the main top, one of the things you mentioned to me was, what are the top 3 resources? If you're going to read self-help books, which a lot of people do, don't just read them. You have to actually do exercises. Sorry, I actually think husband the AC and the heating and the cat.
So you're saying follow through, don't just read.
Yes, just follow through. It's I know too many people read them and they've got hundreds of self-help books, but they're still self-helping, so they're not helping. So try and focus on one book at a time. Problem with what we do as human beings is we pile on top of each other, and it's like a friend once actually said to me, it's like a linen cupboard. You keep putting it all in and you shut the door and you keep putting it in, and eventually you can't, it explodes on you. That's what we do. We now need to, one thing at a time, and that's how we cope. And if you can breathe properly, do simple deep breathing exercise, and if you're really anxious about something, and I found it helped with my anxiety, one of my resources, so self-help books, don't just read, do. Breathe correctly, and that is breathe to distract your mind from what it is that's bothering you, to give yourself a moment of peace. Because you will go back to it, but you can go back to it a little bit calmer. And each time you do this, you go back calmer and stay calm. So breathe in through your nose, thinking the word relax. It's important to think this word. Thinking the word relax, chant that to yourself, hold for 3 to 5 seconds, and let it all out in a big sigh, thinking the word release, releasing all of the stress. And that way you're allowing your body to calm. And I think, and you can do that for as many times as you need. I do it with the kids at least 5 times. And a lot of the children tell me that they'll actually do that exercise before they go for sports meets, before they do any dance competition. So they do the exercise. You can do it when you go to bed to help you sleep. And I think the other resource that motivates and inspires me is healthy friends around you. And when I say healthy, is get rid of the toxicity. If there are toxic people around you, question why they're in your life. I went through a phase of only having people in my life that had personality traits of mum, and it wasn't healthy for me. So eventually they started filtering out, and I started bringing into my life some brilliant entrepreneurs, and we laugh and we joke, and they help me and I help them, and we look after each other. So really the community that you have around you, talk to people and don't be afraid to reach out.
Wonderful, wonderful. I don't really have anything to add to that.
Oh,
Is yeah, sorry. Is the audio working right now, like well? Or
yeah.
are you getting okay, cool. It's just on my side then. Sometimes when I start talking, I'm hearing it rough. Sorry, I'll
No.
edit this section out. No, that's fantastic. It's just because it's on my mind. I do want to point something out, and I don't even know. I hope you're aware of, like, I think you're aware of how much you're transforming these kids, but yeah, I'm sure you are, hence the pride. But literally, so with the breathing exercise, for example, maybe as a man years later, that simple exercise, for example, prevents something called amygdala override. So fancy, but all it means is when men or women snap. So, like, you know how so let's say you're having, so because you're talking about conflict resolution as well,
Yeah.
right? So this is just one thing area, but it can dramatically affect the child's life later on.
Yeah.
So let's say you're having a disagreement with your partner or your friend, or and odds are, if you haven't learned how to resolve conflict or persuade, you'll likely try to educate them directly, and, and so you'll lecture them, and then because you're lecturing them, they'll become, you'll start to hit on their defense mechanisms, to say, no, you're wrong, I'm right, and then if one person doesn't kind of walk away, it can create tension, and then if that person starts to tighten up with their breathing, then they can snap. And I don't mean like in any harsh, vicious way. I just mean as in even just saying something that you regret later. And so by focusing on that calm breath and bringing yourself back to it, it enables you to obviously have a much better outcome with every single one of those times where there is a conflict in your life. And then with the debating that you're doing as well, I heard of this wonderful exercise, and this, all I'm doing is just affirming what you're doing. but this wonderful exercise, where what you would do is you'd have two children debate each other, right? But you would make them choose the opposite of what they believed. And so, have you used this before?
I do it all the time.
Wonderful, yeah, and so it enables, for everyone else listening, it enables both people to actually learn at a deeper level the other person's point of view, and then therefore opens your eyes. And in a time where it does appear that just on a local level, state, national, international level, there's going to likely be more conflict in general, and tensions are going to rise more. So by educating children in this way, which is not done at all in any mainstream, and even in the higher levels, only for like a select portion of that school, it means that you're creating better kind of citizens that will be more calm, and articulate for decades. So so I really praise you for everything you do.
Thank you.
And no worries. I think it's wonderful that that there are people like you that are so talented in this area, and that that create the resource in this area that I know you didn't necessarily know was there, but is a massive hole.
And you'll actually be interested to know that I've had teachers come up to me, primary school teachers, and say, we're not taught at university to teach what you teach. So they're taught listening and speaking aspect, where they have to look at, they do assessments on eye contact, gestures? Are they mean? But then they're not taught to teach the speaker stance. They're not taught to teach, because that's mine anyway. They're not taught to teach the squish the ant, move, how to move around the floor and glide and make your, how to, and actually they're not taught. I can teach you how to develop charisma, even if you haven't got it, because it can take a long time, only simply, when I say a long time, it depends on the person's willingness. Adults, it's harder because we've already brought those bad habits in, and I really need to shake them out of you. With children, I can actually, a child that you would originally not see as charismatic, because you have kids that you go, wow, they are such naturals. Same with sports. You can see kids that are natural sports people or have to work hard at it, but still good, okay? And when I've brought the charisma out in very, very shy children who've had other people go, wow, that's not the kid I know. So just by giving them, what I've learned to do as well, and this is a piece of advice I would say, or let parents know, other people know, when you're working with children, so it could be a grandchild or you're chatting to them or something like that, we all play roles in a family. So I once had a parent say to me, you'll not get anything out of him, he's awfully shy, I'm just giving you the heads up. Thank you so much, and then discarded everything she said. I was appreciative, because that meant I was putting the same blinkers on of, he's incredibly shy, won't put his hand up, won't get him to interact. I gave him all the activities that I needed him to do, and he started shining. And once he did all the different speech types, he ended up doing they did a debate as their showcase. These are grade 5s and 6s. And they presented it in front of Nick Staples, our local MP. That particular boy stood out because he used humor to persuade. He was brilliant. And Nick came up to me and he said, oh my God, he's a real standout. So when Mum came up and said, what did you do? How did you get him like that? Because she came to the showcase at the end of each term, I let the parents come. How did you get him to do that? I said, would you like me to lie or tell you the truth? And she said, tell me the truth. We all want to hear that. I said, you play the part. So you've told him he's shy and introverted and put blinkers on to the way you see him. Doesn't mean you don't love him. It's simply the role that you're playing. He's shy, he's not over talkative, and you're saying he's shy and introverted, you're not going to get much. He's then playing the role, I'm shy, I'm introverted, I don't have to, in gatherings, Mum will let me get away with certain things. I didn't. I opened that up and he saw a new himself. He saw himself in a new light. And I said, keep that open. I've done it, I've broken that barrier, and I'm so confident with that kid going into high school that he will shine, but you need to stop playing your roles. And that's the problem. So if you say, oh, my kid's just aggro all the time, that kid is playing a role that you've given them, and you're playing the role of the harassed parent. So take away that role, and you will see a huge change. Sorry, the dog. Can you hear my dog?
Yeah,
my husband let the dog out.
That's totally fine. I've definitely taken enough of your time.
That's all right. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
No, yeah, absolutely. No, it's been absolutely wonderful, and I think just like we talked about off air, it really did go full circle, and and really did explain a huge amount of you, which is absolutely wonderful. And then also,
you're going to have to cut it right back.
Oh, I think it maybe and maybe not. I think we can kind of work with a couple of different ways of doing it. It just means that there's an enormous amount of content now.
You might split it out in two.
Yeah, no, for sure. But no, it's a real pleasure. And
Oh no, thank you.
yeah, it's my pleasure. So yeah, so I might release it in 2. Good idea. And then yeah, and obviously I'll be sending you the link, and I'll try as well, and I'll ask even if you're open to it, seeing if we can put up a link on the East Bentley Facebook group, or the local Facebook groups, because I feel like we're not really selling anything. So yeah, it's more just it's just very simply.
Well, it's an inspirational story. What I'm hoping for is that whoever's listening to this, I did a post today going, I'm actually a bit nervous because I woke up at 4 a.m. this morning, really nervous, because I talk about bits. I do little videos about my weight loss. I do videos going into the business, changing career at 40. I do presentations at Toastmasters, and I'll talk to the kids about those smaller things. I even let the kids know I have lost a child. So when I think kids like it when they get to know a little bit about you, but I don't talk about the really, really heavy stuff. And we just talk about those things, the human stuff, without going into those, because those are extraordinary circumstances, some of them. But the aspects of what we go through, being able to have a platform to talk about it. I've never sat here, or I've never for 2 hours, or what is it? We started at 3.
Close to 2, yeah.
Yeah, I've never sat with anybody and gone through. And bear in mind, I've missed out a huge chunk of part of my story, the life with,
I understand.
But that it's been nice to be, and I hope that what I do is in my story give someone, even one person, hope that actually the world won't be better off without you when you're having those thoughts, that there's more to you than meets the eye. You just don't know it yet. You just got to investigate it and learn to self-love, because when you self-love, actually you draw to you even the right animals. It's weird. You draw to you. I found actually when I found that self-love, I started seeing amazing birds in the park, and I wasn't being swooped by magpies, and because I changed my energy. It's bizarre. What we become what we think. So you change the way we think by understanding the way we feel a little bit more. And if you need help, get help. But if someone says to me, you can't, I go, watch me.